He said, you'll never be free until you have nothing to fear, nothing to hide, and nothing to prove. And when you step into your purpose, watch out.
Ryan Stevens is a U.S. Marine combat vet, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu second-degree black belt, competitive shooter, mixed martial arts practitioner, entrepreneur, and host of the viral Mindset Minute video series on TikTok. Among his tours to Iraq with the Marines, Ryan served as a combat motorcycle operator during the initial push into Iraq. Let's talk about who's Ryan and what are the things that you went through who made you who you are now.
And so people say, Ryan, you've been to combat. I was born into combat.
Right.
And I don't say that lightly. I still carry scars on my body. Like he used to put cigarettes out on me. And he would put the cigarettes out. And I remember smelling like the burn of my flesh. And
how did you become unbroken? Hey guys, thank you so much for your support. If you like what we're doing and you want to support us, please hit the subscribe button below. A lot of you are watching and telling me you're enjoying this, so give us a little love and hit that button. This episode was filmed in Little Rock one day before my second stem cell transplant, so I had a little bit of beard going on. Hopefully that comes back soon along with my superpowers. In this episode, we interviewed my very good friend Ryan Stevens. He and I have known each other for over 20 years. We served in the Marine Corps together, and he's become one of my best friends. I consider him like a brother. Ryan's not only a second-degree black belt martial arts instructor trainer with the Marine Corps Martial Arts Instructor Program, but he also got certifications in each of the military services martial arts programs, to include SOCP and the Army Combatives Program under Matt Larson. While these accomplishments are impressive for any man, Ryan had to overcome unspeakable abuse and neglect and trauma just to get to this point in his life. Join us as we discuss with him how he became unbroken and one of the most inspirational people that I know. Stick around to the end and we're going to share one of his viral mindset minutes at the end of this episode. Thank you so much. Welcome to Unbroken from the Ashes. I'm James Ash.
And I'm Jessica Ash.
And today we're here with my dude, Ryan Stevens.
what's up, buddy?
Man, it is so good to have you here.
I'm excited to be here. I'm excited for what you're doing. I'm excited to sit here and just kick it for a little bit.
Bro, that's the truth. Now, we have a time limit because you got to bounce. You got your son's basketball game to get to. And there's nothing more important than being there for your family, being there for your son. And I respect that, man.
Come on, man. But I'm down. I cut out time. I'm excited for this.
Cool. So we met 22 years ago.
Which makes us sound really old.
Because you are really old.
We are really old.
But I'm older, I think.
Yeah, just a touch. A couple years. So I'm 41. I'll be 42 this year.
Don't say it. Don't do it.
Don't do it?
No, you can't. My wife's like, yeah, I just turned 27. Yeah.
So you're a couple years older than me.
Just a couple.
And you're a year older than me.
No.
I'm 43.
Yeah.
Yep, 43. But I feel...
You're a baby.
I am, but I'm high mileage. I'm a newer car, high mileage.
Yeah, it's not the years, it's the miles.
It's crazy, 22?
22. We met in 2002. So we went to boot camp at the same time, right? We were in different platoons. What was your platoon in boot camp?
This is crazy. Hold on one second.
I was 2014.
This is how you know that you're institutionalized.
Yes.
I was Fox Company, platoon 2015.
Yep, I was Fox Company 2014. Staff Sergeant Padua.
Yeah, is that crazy that we remember that after 22 years?
So we went through boot camp at the same time, MCT at the same time, and then we really met in military police school.
That's right.
And you were my roommate through military police school. And man, there were some awesome times. And that whole early part of my adulthood, being in the Marine Corps and going through those things really formed a lot of who I am now. And I really believe that my time hanging with you, being my roommate, your attitude planted a seed and had an influence on me on how I was going to approach and look at things the rest of my life. Your relentless, defiant optimism.
Yeah, that is really well worded.
It's true, dude.
Yeah.
And that was a malleable time for me, and like mentally, emotionally. I was developing into who I was going to be as an adult, and I had some choices to make. I could choose to be like some of the other people in our class, or I could, choose my path, right? It's a choose your own adventure book, right?
That's exactly right.
And I saw how you were responding to some things. I was like, that's what I want to be like.
Well, I felt, it's funny to talk about this. I don't think we've ever talked about like what was your perception at the time, right?
We haven't.
And when you and I linked up, I remember being like, this dude's equally yoked, right? I had this weird motivation, like a different perspective than most people,
Right.
a bring it mentality.
Yeah, same here.
And when I linked up with you in MP school, instantaneously it was that we're equally yoked.
Correct.
No complaining, zip it. If it sucks, good.
Yes, exactly.
And it's almost, we talked about this earlier, it's a fight in the shade mentality from like the movie of 300.
That's right.
We're going to darken the sky with arrows, and it's supposed to intimidate somebody. And they're like, good. Then we'll fight in the shade.
That's right.
And they laughed when all the chaos happened. So I just think like, I look back on it. I remember meeting you. We had a roommate, another roommate, which was not as equally yoked.
Not quite.
But you had this mentality of let's go get everything. Hey, we're going to have an inspection. Good. Cool. How do we do the best at that? Hey, we're going to have a PT. Good. Let's do that. And then you had a unique mindset of always looking for self-development. Because I remember it wasn't just going to MP school.
Right.
We were like, let's do martial arts.
Yes.
Let's punch people in the common area.
Yeah, you had a bit more experience with martial arts than I did at that time. Up to that point, my sole exposure to martial arts was high school wrestling and McMap and boot camp. That was it.
Oh, wow.
And so you brought this judo book and like turn the page, look at the moves, and it was like yellowed and like old school, and like you got it from a thrift store where some guy left it in their car for 6 years.
Yeah.
And we were going like frame by frame through this judo book, like, oh, here's how we do a Kimura. This is what this looks like. And you were like trying to show me. I was like, I'm down. Let's do it. I've always wanted to learn these things.
Yeah, I got bit by the martial arts bug. I think it was UFC. It was the Colt. Like, I don't know if we should talk about that now or whatever, but like what kind of inspired that martial arts thing.
Sure, let's do it.
But I think it was just the culture at the time. I'm a firm believer that we grew up in the best generation. When you think about it, we had Nintendo.
Yes.
We
Duck
had,
Hunt.
but now think about the martial arts influence during our time. We had Ninja Turtles, Karate Kid, Bloodsport. Everything was martial art. Chuck Norris. Every kid in America had foam nunchucks for $1.50.
Definitely did. 100%.
I know you did. But we all had that, right?
Yeah.
And then karate was the thing. Everybody was throwing wheel kicks. You could buy ninja stars at your gas station, right?
Right, exactly.
This was like the culture, right?
It was
Mike Tyson's Punch Out.
Golden era.
Yeah, the golden area.
Yeah.
And I just remember being like Ninja Gate. Everything was martial arts fighting themed. And I grew up in a house full of violence. And I remember UFC kicking off. And I remember, I beat up a little bit and kind of bullied in school. And then I just one time was like, hey, we're fighting back, And I just caught the bug, the martial arts bug, and just started going hard in the paint. Like, hey, we're going to learn this. This is an empowerment thing. And when we were at MP school, then it became almost like, let's test it.
Yes. Absolutely.
Because I was older. When I met you, I was older. I joined the Marine Corps when I was, I think, 20 years old.
Yeah, maybe. I turned 19 in boot camp.
Yeah. Maybe I was 19. Maybe I'm not really sure. I know that I was working as a Spokane Transit Authority, like a transit cop. So I was already doing DT stuff like that.
Yeah. So if I turned 19 in boot camp, you were 20.
Yeah, so I was 20 in boot camp.
Yeah.
So I was already older, and I really enjoyed DT, martial arts, and that stuff. And then during MP school. We just tested it out.
Yes.
Everybody was like, hey, it's time to go to bed. Right?
right.
And so we're like, all right, let's meet in the lobby. And we were just,
Clear out the common area.
yeah. And it was really cool. One thing that I really enjoyed about martial arts that I think I enjoyed the most was forced humility for people that weren't humble.
Yes.
I think I still like that a little bit.
There's something nice about that.
Yeah, and there were a couple of people. I remember one specific, the guy with the real high and tight.
He had like a Gunny Porter came in and said, shave that tampon off the top of your head.
Yeah, and I remember just watching people go to sleep, and he was one of them. And there was something about forced humility there that was awesome.
Yes.
Like, do be humble.
So one of the things that we've been looking for in a training space is, that same thing. Because so many people that get into martial arts, they do it not because they like throwing wheel kicks or the sport of it. They do it because there's a reason, there's a driver.
Every single person.
Yeah.
Every person has a story, and that's what I've learned about kind of the gym that we're doing now is where do you meet the person at their needs? Mm-hmm. Not all of them need martial arts. Martial arts is just a modality to serve them, right? It might be they need a community, they need friends, they need fitness, they need empowerment, they need maybe self-defense for their job as police officers.
Right.
Rarely do people come to martial arts because they want to hurt people.
No.
I don't like hurting people at all. It's funny that I'm the big guy in the gym, right? And so I'm like, and I'm getting in the middle of the roll, I'll smash somebody. And I'm like, hey, man, are you okay? In the roll, I'll ask them, hey, man, are you all right? Yeah, keep going.
There's been 2 times where I've hurt someone doing martial arts and training.
Yeah.
And it haunts me still to this day.
That just tells where your heart's at, right? It lets you know where your heart's at.
So you said that, most people, they jump into martial arts because something happened or there was a reason, there's a driver. And you started martial arts at a young age. You said Taekwondo back in the day, or
what? Yeah, with the bowl cut, oversized gi,
nice,
and foam nunchucks with the golden dragon on them.
So I want to dig back behind and before that.
Yeah,
and I want to figure out who is Ryan, because you're a phenomenal man, and
I really appreciate that.
We all know that the greatest of sailors are never made on calm seas.
That's a fact.
And you've been through some rough seas, and you found a way to refine, forge yourself, and make yourself into who you are today. And I think that your story is phenomenal and can help and influence a lot of people. You do that now already through your teaching, your coaching, your mentoring. You are helping tons of people. But there's a lot that went into making who you are now. And it starts with an impetus. It starts with a driver, something that made you want to. And you mentioned earlier, we went to boot camp and went to all these different places, and there were no factor. But this easy day.
Easy day.
Right? So let's dig back. Let's talk about who's Ryan and what are the things that you went through who made you who you are now. Let's talk about that fire that forges.
That's a really good question. That's a deep question.
It is. And that's what we're about. We want to dig deep a little bit, but I'll let you guide it and kind of direct where you want to go with it.
Okay, so like in the beginning.
Yeah.
Right?
In the beginning.
Back in the day.
So I was born out of wedlock. My mom had a one-night stand with a man, and I was the byproduct of that. My mom was I don't have a lot of memory of a childhood. That's probably, trauma hiding things out or things like that. But
Sure.
as far back as I can remember, my mom met my stepdad, and this dude was brutal. Very brutal. He was the devil, this guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he was an evil man. So as far back as I can remember, he was in my life.
Okay.
And so people say, Ryan, you've been to combat. I was born into combat.
Right.
And I don't say that lightly. Some of the abuse that I went through. So I grew up in a home from as young as I can remember. that there was physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse. It was an everyday thing. And this is what that I think haunts my heart about it, is I was a good kid.
Right.
I really I was a people pleaser. I really wanted, I got good grades. I did as I told, but there was still this evil cloud that haunted me in my home. And so this guy came in, my mom jumped in. My mom was actually, both of these people have since died. I don't have parents, right?
Okay.
My real dad, we don't really talk to him, met him a couple times. I don't, so I don't really know him very well.
Yeah.
But my mom and dad are both dead, so I really don't have any parents. But my mom was doing good. She was an LP, I think it's called an LPN.
Okay.
So she college educated, making money, and then she met this guy, and instantaneously it just started to go downhill. He was horrible. I still carry scars on my body from this guy. I remember, and what's so hard about it, now I got 2 children. And so I think, how could you do this to this?
Absolutely.
Especially I have a daughter, and then I have a son that's older. And I look at my daughter, I'm like, how could you hurt a little human being like that?
Right.
And I still carry scars on my body. He used to put cigarettes out on me. And he would put the cigarettes out. And I remember smelling like the burn of my flesh, and he'd make me stand there, and there was a lot of the whole "don't cry, harden up" kind of things.
Sure.
And I remember being young, and he'd just pick me up and throw me across the living room. And I had one time, and he said, "You fell, right? We're gonna go to the ER, and you're gonna tell him you fell, right?" And I was fearful of this man. So yep, that's right. And I have stitches on the back of my head. I have a scar on the end of my chin. I have a scar on my eye. And so these scars are on my body because of this man. And he was, I'm telling you, brutal. He'd lock me in the basement, make me stand in the corner for 8 hours, and then if I moved, he would beat me.
Yep.
So there was a fear of staying there.
Yep.
How old were you when he came into your life?
As far back as I can remember. So I would say probably 3, 2.
Okay.
Yeah,
So your entire identity was formed with him there.
100%.
Okay.
And it was crazy. My family told me that was my real dad. And I didn't really look like him. He had red hair. So I didn't really look like him, but they told me that this is your dad. I even took on his name when my birth certificate was different, which is crazy. So he went by a different name.
Got it.
It was really weird, the whole circumstances. There was drugs in the home, mental. Now I know, and so there's a little bit of empathy for him, and I know that he was abused by his dad.
Right.
So he was modeling, but no excuses. It was brutal. I remember kind of a similar story with yours, where I lost heart, and when things became cold in my soul, and that's when I really started to become a hardened individual. And it was at a young age. I can't remember the exact age, but I was playing in a room, and we lived in this trailer on my grandma's property. So my family's not my extended family.
Yeah.
Has always just been bootstrap, work, make a life for yourself kind of people. And then this guy came in, and my mom just started to become it was a victim home. It was always somebody else's fault. We're always waiting on the check.
Right.
Live off the government.
So your mom's changed as a result of being with him.
100%.
Yeah, that victim mentality can be so contagious.
Oh, it is the cancer that will rot your bones. And I actually have a philosophy of that we could talk about. But I remember the time that I lost heart is because I was always a joyful kid. Like I said, I wanted to be a good kid. I never really rebelled, as far as I can remember rebelling. And he came into the room one time, and he stepped on a toy, and it pissed him off. And I knew, I was like, oh crap,
Yeah.
And he came in with an extension cord, and I remember him just whipping me, and it hurt so bad. There's something about
There's nothing like it.
There's nothing like it. And I've been through some hard training. I've been through some of the military's very rough training, and I have never felt what that cord felt like. And there's something about the weight of it and the width of it, and he was whipping me, and I remember screaming, and then I remember passing out. And then I remember waking up and he was still whipping me.
Wow.
Yes, and that's when I just turned cold inside. I remember running away because I thought he was going to kill me. I thought I was like I passed out, woke up, and he was still whipping me. And I remember running across to my cousin's house, which now they just stayed in my house. My cousin did. She always tells me, like, Ryan, you're the hero. You need to tell your story because of kind of the life we lived.
Yeah.
And I told my uncle. My uncle's like, heck no. There's no way this is going to I had lashes all over my body. And my stepdad came into the house. He's like, where's that punk kid at? And my uncle and them fought in the living room.
Good for him.
And I remember watching. Yes, that is one of the only men that stood up for me in my life. There's been a couple mentors, but that man stood up for me. And I'll never forget that. And I have a debt that I need to pay to that man.
So that happened shortly after the extension cord lashing.
No, that happened immediately after. So when he was done, he was still whipping me after I woke up. I took off running.
I see.
Because he thought he was going to kill me. And so it was my grandma's house. We lived in a trailer that my grandma bought for my mom and to get her up as a nurse and get her on her feet. And this guy moved in and kind of just, the house turned to hell. I ran to my uncle's house, it was right across a pasture.
I see.
And ran in and they were like, what? And they already knew abuse was happening.
Right.
But they didn't know it was to that extent.
Yeah.
You know, because I had hospital, I would have bruises on my eye. You know, I was kind of malnutrition because he would lock me in the bait, like in our other house, and he'd make me stand in the corner. There was always this stuff going on, so they knew. Right. But when I ran in, it was bad. Yeah. And my cousins still talk about it. And my stepdad came in, slid into the thing, jumped in. He's this vibrato guy, and they fought in the living room. And then I ended up having to go back in the car with my dad. Scared the crap out of me. I thought he was going to kill me. And my aunt Vicky said, we're going to adopt him. We're going to call CPS. We're going to adopt Ryan. He's going to be part of our family. Well, in the middle of the night, they picked up and moved to Washington State.
Your aunt did?
No, my family did.
Oh.
Middle of the night. And that's when the abuse got worse, you know?
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm going to pause you for just a second.
Yeah.
So you said that.
And real quick, I want to say this.
Yeah.
I don't say any of this to be a victim.
No.
No.
Well,
Yeah.
I know that because I've heard some of these things.
Yes.
And I think it's so important because I hear so many people bitching about how hard their lives are and how they're victims of circumstance and they can't get past these small insults to make their lives better.
Yes.
And to share what we've been through, I think is powerful because it gives some contrast. Like I thought I was poor until I went to Iraq and I saw people living in mud houses.
Yes.
But no, okay, I got to stop bitching about that.
Yeah, it's a perspective issue.
Right.
Life is all a perspective
Exactly. So I know you're not saying you're a victim.
Yeah.
And I don't want anyone to perceive it that way.
issue. Yeah.
The reality is the human body, the human mind, and the human soul can take a lot.
Oh, yeah.
But it can only take so much. And we have to make decisions and take actions to heal, recover, and renew ourselves. And it's possible.
100%.
People will look at a poor circumstance and say, oh, I can't make it. It's not possible. It was
False.
too bad. Yeah, gone.
False.
And stories like this shed light on that.
Well, I appreciate that.
What I'm focusing on is you said that during that particular beating, that was when your heart turned cold.
100%.
And immediately, though, you had this uncle who rushed to your defense.
Yes.
And so, because I look at you, I hear some of these stories through James, and I'm like, how in the world did this guy go through this and then break the multi-generational trauma and have healthy kids and be a leader in his community? Like, how did this happen? And so I'm just wondering, I'm just going to put like a little bookmark on this thing with your uncle, like right when you were at a crossroads, right? Where you could have gone, you know, you that could have cemented who you were going to become in that moment. And yet you had another man come into your, you know, who was there and who fought for you, like physically fought for you. So I just wonder if that's one of those crossroads where it may have, you know, somehow steered you later on.
Giving you some hope.
Well, I think what happens is it ricochets. I did not really fully appreciate that in the moment, right? I was still young.
Sure.
I mean, this is an estimate. I don't really know because of, you know, But I would say probably 6 or 7 at that age.
Wow. Okay.
When he
I was
gave-
picturing older.
No. And so we went to Washington State, and that's when the drugs got bad. The abuse got even worse. That's when we moved in a house that had a basement. He would lock me in the basement. The abuse got real bad, and we started to move. We lived off the government, and so they would get paid, and then everybody was happy for the first 5 days, and then the rest of the month it was just brutal.
Right.
It was brutal. All the frustrations of life would be taken out on me. And it just and he would beat my mom too, so I wasn't the only victim. I remember him trying to choke my mom out in the living room, punching my mom, hitting her with things, hitting me with things. It was just, he was the devil when I say it like that. And there's so much more of the detail that I can go in, but the abuse just got bad. And then what we would do is we would move into a house. They would save up enough money to pay the first and last month's rent, and then we would live there until they evicted us, and we repeated that process. And I remember trying to go back and remember how many houses we lived in, and I couldn't even remember. I think I went to 3 different high schools. I moved back to Texas again, and then back to Washington again. We were these transient people that were living off welfare that would go to each and every home.
Yeah.
And then I remember one incident, and this is where something happened inside me. So the story is, we were living out in Washington State. The abuse was bad. It was just constant abuse. And I started to almost get numb to it.
Yeah.
This constant physical, emotional abuse was brutal. And I remember one time, because my mom, with the drugs, she was part of it too. And in her older age, she would play, I didn't really know, Ryan, but she knew. She absolutely knew what was going on.
Right.
And I remember I took this ass beating that was bad. I mean, and I feared this man. I feared him so much that I would never try to defend myself. And I took a bad beating one day. And he told me, you're killing your mom with your behavior. And in my mind, I'm searching myself, like, what did I really do? It's almost like the Stockholm, you start agreeing with the captor.
Right.
Right.
And I remember he said, you're killing your mom. You're killing your mom with your behavior. And I was a good kid, man. I went to school, good kid, good grades, and like, what the heck? So I went downstairs, and my mom is playing this music, this like, kind of like somber music. And she has these pill bottles by the bed. And she's like, Ryan, I can't take it anymore. And he's like, look what you did to your mom. She took the pills, she's gonna die. And so she was trying to commit suicide because she couldn't handle the abuse from my dad. And then he was beating me. And like,
making it your fault.
So it was my fault. So I went upstairs, and I was older at the time. I think I was 16 at this time. I remember this vividly. Went upstairs, and there was a revolver that was like hidden in this like little nook of a bookshelf where they had like little knickknacks there. And I grabbed the revolver, and I was gonna kill myself. I can't take this anymore. This is not life. Every time he beat me, it was brutal. I said, I can't do this anymore. So I grabbed the gun, and I remember like, this is it. This is where we're gonna end it. And then I put the pistol down, and I said, fuck that. We are gonna go do something with life. This is not what life is. I can't live in this environment. We're gonna go get it. And I remember having this empowerment, and I didn't know where I was gonna go. And I remember just running out of the house. And I took off running, kind of like a recap of when I was a kid. I just thought about that. And he got in the car and started chasing me, and he tried to run me over. Wow. Dead serious, tried to kill me. I ran away, and I had a really good friend named Ryan Haskell, and they knew the abuse was going on, and they said, hey, dude, why don't you move in with us? And they housed me for a little bit. And them and a lady, probably one of the biggest inspiration to me is named Mama Thomason is her name. So I had these 2 friends that I would kind of like stay the night with, right? So I'd live here. Well, Ryan Haskell and Dean and Gloria Haskell, these two people took me into their home and they treated me like a son. They knew the abuse was going on. They knew my house was full of drugs.
Yeah.
They knew all these things that were going. They knew that, you know, my dad would always tell me, like, you're going to grow up to be a nobody. You come from a nobody family. And so these people took me in, and I kind of got to see what a family kind of looked like.
Right.
I said, okay, I can see this. And then I went over to another friend's house. So they kind of modeled what a family kind of looks like. There was still problems in the home, you know, but it wasn't like my home,
Right.
not even close. And they still had some problems, and I could see that.
Sure.
But there was a lack of gratefulness in the home. And then I went to Mama Thomason's house one time, and I was over there with a buddy named Brady, and we used to make these like little smoothie things of like bananas and like the, you know, kind of like, she was kind of a health person. And she told me one time, she said, there's something special about you, Ryan. You're going to do some great things in your life. And it's the first time I've ever heard that.
I was going to say that's probably a first for you.
And I was like, I was 17 at the time, 18 at the time when she said that. And something like, and I felt like, I can do something great. You know what? You're right. Because I did believe, like, I always wondered, like, why am I getting this abuse? What did I do to deserve this abuse? And then I was always like I believe I was meant for something. I always believed this in my mind, you know? And that's why with the gun, I was like, this is not what life is. Like, I believe I'm supposed to be doing something. And then when she validated that, she looked at me and she said, you're meant for something great. I see something in you that's special, Ryan, because I think she knew the abuse too. And I would never complain about it.
Yeah.
Never had a victim mentality. She says, something special about you. She said, you're going to grow up and you're going to do great things. And I never forgot that. And I think that was the ricochet moment for me that you talk about, where my heart was so cold, don't get it twisted.
Sure.
You know, and because of the home life, I realize now that I'm older and more mature, is I was seeking validation. I wanted validation because I didn't get it from my family. I had a deep-rooted anger.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah. Another thing too is, if you want violence, I'm going to give it to you. You know, so like don't ever try to enforce your will on me. You know, and if there is that, then we're going to get it. And so I had all these deep-rooted issues, but she put a little bit of light in there. And was really cool. She's a very religious woman. You know, and I believe God put her in my life at that moment to, hey, look, here's what a light looks like.
It's amazing.
Know? Yeah, amazing woman. I've written her and told her, hey, you changed my life, and, you know.
So I think that there's something really special about some things that you just said. Very unique. I think a lot of people that have been through the things that you have would have that cold-heartedness. They would feel calloused. They would have an iron wall up around them. But they would also feel unworthy. And they wouldn't feel like they were special or they had a purpose. I was in that camp. When I was a kid, I didn't imagine myself living past 18. When I made it to 18, I was recalled to, I went to boot camp, right? And, 9/11 happened 6 days before I started boot camp. And so I was like, all right, well, I made it to 18. I'm probably not going to make it past 30.
Wow. So you had it
was the opposite. I thought I was unworthy, and I didn't think there was a future. I didn't think there was a purpose. I just thought, this trauma, this abuse, this is going to be life until it's not.
Yeah.
I didn't have what you're talking about, that spark of life that was still inside you.
Yeah.
That you believed in yourself.
100%.
So many people get crushed.
Yeah.
But I get that. I never thought that I was unworthy. I was like the polar opposite. I was like, I'm so much better than this.
Yes.
I am not. This is not going to be how I am as a parent. This is not how I'm going to live my life.
100%.
It's going to take a lot of hard work. And I found my avenue out was going to school and making my own career. So it was a very different avenue. But my mentality was defiantly I was going to defiantly be successful.
Yes.
And
I can share that with you. That's very much mine too. Even at a young age, I remember the abuse. And I remember setting my mom down, and I was maybe 12, 13, 14, in my teens.
Sure.
And I was giving my family financial advice. I said, why do we have to do this? You make this much money and you blow it, and there's happiness. And I remember we used to go to McDonald's, and even the man, my stepdad, would have a smile on his face and let's get this McDonald's. And then as soon as the money was gone, and it would only last a week, and then it was all hell. You know, it was, and we knew. And I said, why don't we just budget and spend the money throughout the whole month, so then we could be happy throughout the whole month, you know? And it was just, I was like, and then the food stamps, you know, back in the day, you know,
Actual stamps.
it was the actual like Monopoly, and rip it out.
Rip
and
it-
pay.
rip it
Well,
out
then
of
it was
the book.
like they would use that to buy drugs, you know? So for $100 of food stamps, $50 of drugs and things like that.
just trade it for cash.
Yeah. And I'm just like, you guys are stupid. And then as I got older, right before, you know, I ran away, I remember telling them that I was going to own a Saline Mustang. How amazing is that?
That is awesome.
I told him, I said, I'm going to own, and he said, you'll never own that. You'll never own that. I said, I'll own it one day. I remember telling him in my living room. He said, you come from a poor family, stop dreaming. This is what reality looks like. Life is hard, you know?
Right.
It's not all roses and whatever when you get out of here. And I remember in my head being like, you're an idiot. Like, life is what you make it. I feared if people knew that about me, then they wouldn't love me or accept me, right?
Yeah.
You know, if I could share one thing, this is probably one of the most important parts of the podcast if somebody's listening.
If you were to speak to their heart, someone watching now that feels unworthy, what would you say?
You need 5 types of friends. Very first one is your covenant friend. This is the guy who is your ride or die, and they are always there for you. Your spiritual friend. This is the person that'll pray for you. This is the person that you go for advice, spiritual advice when you're down. This one's really hard to come by. It's called a confidant. Who do you go to when you have life decisions? The one you can share wins with, because sometimes we can't share wins because people are jealous. This person right here, your confidant, you come to him and say, hey bro, check it out. Just made $1 million. And they go, good for you, bro. Good for you, what's next? Next, your hospitable friend. This person cares for your well-being. This person right here is always like, hey man, how are you doing? No, I don't care about how you're doing at work. How's your heart? Do you have that friend? If you don't have that friend, you need to seek out that friend, because that friend brings life. And then lastly, we all need a hitman. You know what a hitman friend does? Hey bro, check it out. Some stuff went down. They don't ask questions. They go get a bat and they roll out. You need that friend too. You got me? Sometimes you can have a friend, and listen to me real quick. If you have a friend that's more than 2 or 3 on this list is one person, bro, you need to go tell that person today that you thank them. Hey, we did a personal inventory today. Ryan was talking about the top 5 friends, and you're 3 of them. I just want to let you know I appreciate you in my life. Hey, if you don't have any of those friends, I'm going to challenge you to start putting capital into other people. You can't do life alone. You have to have people in your life. That's why in the Marine Corps, we have a fire team. It's 4. We don't send one person. Even in the most elite military units that we send 2. So who do you have in your circle? And take a personal inventory. If you got crappy friends, you need to start kicking them to the curb, because that is your future. You guys got me? I'm lucky that my friends are here. My friends choke me and hold me accountable.